Hi everyone. Today let's talk about Donald Trump's new social media company that just went public. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So Donald Trump's social media company did go public here. Ticker is DJT, and they did use a SPAC to go public with Digital World Acquisition Co. And it is trading extremely high. So it went up a lot. You can see it went up 50% here on the debut, and it went up quite a bit on the following day as well. It jumped more than 50% minutes into public trading, and we'll take a look at the charts later, but this is quite ridiculous, and it is looking very similar to what we saw with Reddit as well. The company does not make a lot of money. The revenue is around $4 million per year, and you can see the current valuation is around $8.5 billion, and you can see that revenue here, $3.5 million, millions of dollars, while the company is worth billions of dollars in theory. And really the reason that I wanted to highlight this, besides the fact that it is popular news to talk about right now, is that there is definitely some froth entering the markets. We're starting to see some more IPOs on the back of the Reddit IPO and SPACs like this. It is a little bit reminiscent of what we saw after the COVID dip, where we saw a whole bunch of companies going through the SPAC IPO process. Their values would shoot up in price very high very quickly, and then they would come right back down within a short period of time. So think about that as we continue to go higher every single day seemingly. Eventually it will end, but understand that there is some froth, and it almost seems like we're getting into some bubble territory. Otherwise, moving over to the indicators here, fear and greed still at 70, so we are still in regular greed. Did tick up 3 points here today. Momentum still extreme, strength still extreme greed. Breadth ticked higher here to extreme greed. First time we've seen that in a little bit. And then put call ratio still greed. Volatility dropping off again here today. Safe haven demand back into greed. This was in fear yesterday. Pretty interesting to see that. And then you can see junk bond demand, no change here, still extreme greed. Moving over to seasonality, you can see we're in a relatively bullish period. Election years could still be some dips later in the month. Otherwise, expecting bullishness into the last trading day of the month here, which is tomorrow. And then moving over to the April calendars for next month, you can see bullish up until about the end of that first week of trading or midweek of the second week. And then we see a little bit of seasonal weakness on those election years, bottoming out around the 12th and then bullish into the end of April. Moving over to the economic calendar, there was really nothing on there for today, but 7-year note auction did come in under the previous read. So interest rates continuing to trend down a little bit. And then looking at tomorrow, you can see GDP in the morning, Chicago PMI also at 9:45. And then we get the Michigan data at 10 o'clock. And then the Fed balance sheet at the end of the day. And then don't forget, it is Good Friday, so markets will be closed, but we still will get CPI data, potentially Fed Powell speaking. So maybe we see futures move around a little bit and some gaps into the Monday session. So just be aware if you're holding stocks into the end of the Thursday session for the Monday open. Moving over to Max Pain, you can see big put wall here at 515, some puts coming in at 520, call wall still here at 530. So seems like we're going to finish between those two levels. Top of the puts 420, 524. You can see stock market price right in that same range. So it seems like we're going to get a bullish finish. Put call ratio still very high. I've been saying bullish finish all week because we've had so many puts in the market. You can see them here. So many more puts than calls, which typically means bullish, but 530 is kind of your cap for the end of tomorrow's session, and it seems like that's what we're going to get. Moving over to the charts, starting off with the SPY, you can see we were trending down throughout the day. We had a spike pre-market, dip mid-session, and then a really strong push here into the end of the session. You can see we're selling a little bit after hours, but definitely a powerful move. Ended up 0.84 on the day. So it seems like a really janky kind of bull flag setup here. We were watching that bull flag, broke out kind of, not a very clean breakout here, but now we are pushing high, looking for that 524.23 level. And if we break out above that, that's going to be a strong move. This is a new high close for the SPY, so you can see momentum rolling to bullish, RSI bullish, strong volume on the day. All of that volume coming on the last candle of the day, so need to see some follow through with that. Again, 524.23 is the critical level, and then if that breaks, we could look for a push up to that upper trend line around 535 over the next month or so. And then moving over to the Tasty charts, you can see that push that we got at the end of the session hit the upper ATR band and then sold off here on the hourly chart. strong volume on that bullish push, so still seeing that volume come through. You can see we got a bullish change of conditions, so the ATR stops are down around that 144 EMA, which is currently trading around 519.32. So definitely looks better here on the hourly chart than it did yesterday. And then similar push here on the 4-hour chart. ATR stops have not changed, so still holding in that 517.63 level, but you can see volume continues to ramp up as we start to see pushes towards the bull side. We got a new higher high versus the high that we had on the previous push. So everything looks a little bit better here on the SPY. Upper ATR band currently at 525.50. Second ATR band 523.97. So those are your price targets right now, 524, and then all the way up around that 525.50 area. So looks like we could get another little bit of a push tomorrow, and that is what I am expecting. Then you can see that same setup here on the daily chart, continuing to hold that 8 EMA. Strong push here today. We're at the second ATR band. You'd want to see a push to that third one up around 528. Potentially could touch it during the midday session, but I wouldn't expect to close that high. Like I said, I would expect to finish closer to that 524, 525 area. Moving over to the Qs, it doesn't look nearly as good. You can see that same kind of structure broke out here. Traded down, we have not hit that lower band. Did hold support at the 144 EMA, so we actually dipped lower than yesterday's low. But again, very powerful candle on the last candle of the day with decent volume, not as strong as the SPY, but decent. Hit the 55 EMA and bounced to the downside a little bit at 445.22. And you can see a little bit more selling after hours. We're at 444.44. And then I have a critical level here, 443.91. So you want to see that hold, still showing lower highs each session as well as lower lows. So it's not broken out in terms of structure yet. The SPY looks much stronger technically. But in terms of a trading range, we are in that upper range now, 443.91 up to 446.66. Close between that level, momentum rolling to bullish, RSI rolling to bullish off of the SMA. Volume stepping up over the last 2 days. Would have wanted to see a little bit better close, potentially finishing around those pre-market highs. We had a strong push pre-market, and then we just sold off super aggressive, similar to the move at the end of the day yesterday. So to me, this still says that we're seeing weakness at current levels, and until we can get above 446.66 and close, we are in consolidation, but still holding support. Moving over to the Tasty charts, you can see on the hourly, we are still in bearish conditions. ATR stops are to the upside around 446.30. We did get a push back to the mid-range, and we're kind of holding in there right now. You can see volume coming through on that bull candle, which is a little bit reassuring. We're back above the 144 EMA, trading at 443.77. So want to see this zone hold. It really hasn't yet. We touched it here, bounced a little bit, and then broke through it. Back above it, want to see it hold. Want to see that mid-range hold and then start to take out these ATRs. Hasn't done it yet, so not quite as bullish as the SPY like I talked about. And then looking at the 4-hour chart, you can see ATRs have not moved. 441.43, as well as that 89 EMA right there in that same zone at the second lower ATR band. The more concerning thing here is that we are seeing this volume-weighted MACD push back to the downside, and then you have that 144 EMA here on the 4-hour chart at 439.12. If these ATRs break and we start to push to that lower EMA, that's going to be a definite bearish change of conditions, and then we would be bearish across most of the charts. Again, the Qs have been in consolidation, and if we start to see some of those support levels break, that's going to be quite bearish, especially after the massive run that we've had so far. And then looking at the daily chart, really nothing has changed here. Continuing to hold that 8 EMA, 443.32. Did test it again, did bounce a little bit from that level. Momentum not doing much. Volume really hasn't done anything over the past couple of days either. So again, looks like consolidation. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, these really jumped strongly here today. So the Russell 2.18%, big move, big momentum, big volume, RSI jumping. We were holding this 21 and 9 EMA area at 204.61. Expected that level to hold. You had the trend here as well. And then we gapped up and rallied super aggressive. Pushed powerfully into the end of the session. 209.42 right now after hours. 208.22 broke. So again, very strong. It looks strong throughout the session as well. And you can see we closed on the high. Next level, 212.10. That was the price target yesterday as well. And then looking at the hourly chart, you can see that price move. Strong throughout the session, found a little bit of resistance at the level as you would expect, but didn't last long, and then it pushed into the end of the session. We have seen some moves like this, And you can see it here, strong move, continuation, and then we gave a lot of that back before pushing higher. So it wouldn't shock me if we did see a bit of a dip in the mid-session tomorrow, at least a retest of 208.22, find some support in that level and then push. But just understand this looks very powerful and it was a breakout and we closed on the high. So everything looks strong there on the Russell. Dow, similar thesis, gapped higher and rallied 1.2%, which is a big move for the Dow. Strong momentum, strong RSI, everything looks good. We're right at the trend. If that breaks, I'll have to figure out some new trend lines because that is my current resistance and everything I have above that is way higher. I don't think we're going to push that quickly. So we'll have to figure some stuff out if this area breaks. Right now, the all-time high is 398.82. And if that breaks, then we'll be in price discovery. Moving over to the tasty charts for the Russell, just for a moment, I wanted to highlight the fact that we did hold that midline and the 8 EMA, and then we bounced almost to that second ATR, which is at 211.08. You can see we've ridden that before and then eventually sold off. So that second ATR band, that is the current price target, and you can see the ATRs are rolling up, which is bullish. You can see we had that same here where we jumped up, held, jumped up, held, jumped up. So we did get some higher highs through that zone. Did pull back a little bit, held support. Now we're pushing to higher levels, momentum rolling to bullish. Haven't seen a ton of volume on these pushes. Did have one strong volume candle on the 20th, but I would have liked to see an RVol push with that price today. Didn't quite happen, but it still looks bullish. Moving over to Donald Trump's social media. This is Truth Social or Trump Media or Donald Trump or Donald J. Trump is the ticker, DJT. Whatever it's called, this is what the chart looks like. It was a SPAC, so you can see maybe they had some potential deals set up here, and then it fell back to normal SPAC prices. Typically, those go public around the $10 mark. You can see that's where it started. Probably some hype around it, and then there was some rumors here, and you can see it started to take off, and then it officially merged. And once you get some hype, that is usually what sends the market a lot higher. And then we officially merged, I think it was this week or last week early, and you can see we got the massive spike there. So looking at the charts on the shorter time frames, you can see we got some hype, started to see some bullishness, and then we got a massive jump, went 35.2 and then another 16 and then another here 14%. So everything very strong. Obviously, like I said in the article, this is way beyond any realm of normal valuation. I think this is all hype. We'll see how it holds up over time, but it is kind of fun to watch. And again, remember, this is a bit of evidence around some frothy markets. You can see this massive volume, 55 million shares traded, absolutely massive volume, momentum bullish. I absolutely do not recommend trading in this ticker. They have revenue of about $4 million and it's currently valued about $8.5 to $9 billion, which is absolutely absurd. And I think it's all hype around Donald Trump. It is interesting and it is something to watch in financial markets. Moving over to the Mag 7. The Mag 7 really hadn't been doing anything for a couple of days, but now it's back in the moves. You can see we did have a dip down to the trend line, really tested both of them and then bounced a little bit. Got the 8 EMA at 357.96, and we are pretty much right there. We are technically below it by just a few pennies, but momentum bearish, RSI bearish, does not look great, and I think this is part of why we're seeing the NASDAQ dip a little bit. And then looking at it on the hourly chart, you can see big move down yesterday, tried to gain a little bit of strength, and then big move down in the early session, consolidation at the 200 SMA. Looks like it's selling a little bit after hours. It's pretty interesting to see the S&Ps rallying aggressively, even with the Mag 7 moving lower, but the NASDAQ just doesn't have enough stocks in there that are moving higher to counteract the Mag 7 moving lower. So keep that in mind, probably why the NASDAQ is seeing weakness, but interesting to see the SPY going higher with some Mag 7 weakness. Moving over to Apple and Tesla. Both of these had a pretty strong day. Apple 2.21%. Very strong, continuing to hold this lower support, slightly higher low setup, pushing to the 21 EMA at 173.55, closed above 170.90. So a couple of bullish indicators. You can see we tested that SMA here on RSI, bounced from that level, so that looks good. Again, could absolutely find some resistance around 175. If this level breaks and then this structure breaks, Apple is going to be moving a lot lower in my opinion. But right now, it is still holding, and it does look a little bit bullish coming off of today's session. And then looking at Tesla, slight gap higher, fell a little bit after hitting the trend line again. So definitely still in this wedge, and it does kind of look similar to this. We're going to hit the trend line, break down. We're right here again. We'll see if it moves lower. It's really coming off of that catalyst that we talked about yesterday, the self-driving trial, and it doesn't seem to me like that is going to be strong enough to push Tesla out of this downtrend. It's been quite weak for a long time, and this just seems like a test of some resistance that's going to break down. In terms of indicators, however, still looks bullish. RSI still looks bullish. Moving over to Broadcom and NVIDIA, the semiconductors that were driving markets for many weeks, and now we continue to see a little bit of weakness. You can see Broadcom, lower high setup, 2 days of selling, we're below the trend. We've been below it before, but this looks a little bit weaker. Momentum rolling down, 0.96 to the downside. You can see the 21 EMA right in the zone. Definitely in a consolidation, seems like a lower high setup. And if this midpoint breaks here around 12.15, that is going to be a big breakdown for Broadcom. We'll see how that plays out. And then NVIDIA, again, definite selling off of that trend line. Couldn't get above it, tried to get above it here. Couldn't hold it, tested it again, couldn't hold it. You can see selling, bearish RSI. So both of those look weak. Got the 21 at 883.46 on the daily chart, and it is down a little bit after hours. We'll see if it breaks down to that trend around 786. And right now it does look like it could push to that zone. Moving over to Meta and Netflix. Meta down 0.41, testing that level 489.67, tested that again. We've tested it a couple times here. Again, looks like consolidation, double top. If this zone breaks down, that's going to be quite bearish. Your support would be around 454, right at that 55 EMA. Momentum and RSI both look bearish. Haven't seen really any volume come in. Seems like somebody might be exiting a position potentially. And then looking at Netflix, you've had this structure for a while. Big push down here today, 2.5%. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Again, similar on the volume profile. Strong push. Seems like somebody might be exiting a position very slowly over time. Now we're seeing some structural breaks. Closed on the low, closed at the level 614. We are technically below it. Hit the 21, hit VWAP. And if this breaks to the 55, that would be around 571. So interesting here. We definitely have a lot of stocks closing on their lows. And again, this is why the NASDAQ is struggling in my opinion, but we're still seeing the SPY push higher. Moving over to staples and discretionaries, both of these had a strong day, 1.05% and 1.16%. Momentum rolling to bullish on both of them. RSIs both look bullish, looks clean. And you can see here, staples, big gap up, push to the trend line. We'll see if it finds a resistance there. If it breaks higher, then your next trend would be around $77. The price target for me is still $77.05. And then you can see discretionaries, gapped higher and pushed, closed on the high, looks good. 185.36 is the level. You can see we were getting close to that 21 EMA, consolidated above the support, momentum bullish, RSI bullish, so everything looks good there. If that level breaks, you have some trend resistance around 187.64. Moving over to industrials and utilities. Industrials pushed really strong today, 1.61%. You can see we had 3 days of selling, hit the 9 EMA, gapped higher and pushed right back to the trend above it, right at those previous highs. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. So we'll see if we can push to that next trend up around 128. This has been a really strong move, continues to look strong. We were a little bit concerned on those 3 bearish days, but now you can see we're definitely pushing higher. And then utilities, this was another really powerful performer, 2.79%, massive move for utilities. You can see it had been showing bullishness. We consolidated at resistance. That was at 64.20. Could not get above it. Strong selling yesterday, and then gapped higher and rallied here today, took out both of those levels, pushing above 65.13. 65.75 is my next level, and you can see trend all the way up here at 66.44. If utilities continues to push, that could show some rotation into safer stocks, but I think it's pretty clear to see that tech is not leading markets right now. It's all of these other sectors that are starting to find some strength, whether it's staples, discretionaries, or utilities. Speaking of breadth, again, we got a really strong pop here today. We were concerned yesterday, 3 bearish days in a row. We were at critical support on both of these charts. And then that support came in and we saw a lot of buying. So we pushed above 77.46. 83.83 is the next level on the 50-day chart. And then on the 20-day breadth, we're basically at these previous highs. 86.53 is the next resistance. See if we get there, see what happens if we get consolidation, then a break. Or if we overthrow it up to that 98.78 level. That is a super important level. We don't get there often. You can see we got there back in April of 20. You can get into this range a few times, but if we get up to that 98 level, that's going to be a pretty important level, and that's going to tell me that this is probably culminated, at least in the short term. And then moving over to breadth here on the 200-day, I just wanted to highlight, you can see those same 3 days of selling that we saw on the other charts. and that powerful push higher. Again, looked like some weakness there at the 9 EMA, but momentum rolled to bullish. RSI looks bullish. You can see that 91.42 level, that is absolutely critical. Anytime we get there, that is typically the top. It does take a while sometimes to culminate and then sell off, but that is usually the top of markets. And it does seem like that's where we're headed. We've held pretty strongly above 76. 91 is that next level. Moving over to yields, we did have Fed Waller talking today, and basically he was explaining why they haven't cut yet. And I think that sent yields down a little bit today. The Fed is pretty intent on cutting, and they are stimulating the market and pushing down yields a little bit. And that's really what we're seeing here. Markets have digested the Fed news. We're also seeing a little bit of selling. And it makes sense. I don't think it's going to break down massive, but we did see a little bit of selling here today. Moving over to the dollar, again, testing that 104.40 level. Tested it here, sold off multiple times here today. I do still think we're going to get above that level and push to 505. That is my current thesis. You can see these higher low setups from here to here. We broke above the trend, looks strong, looking for that next push. Just seems to be showing a little bit of resistance at that level. It's also a little bit interesting to see momentum rolling down. So maybe this is going to hold and we're going to see sideways chop, kind of like we're seeing on yields. But I do think that this still looks a little bit bullish. Moving over to bonds, we saw a big push on both of these here today. So it was pretty much bullish across the board. J&K up about 0.5%, bounced off that 94.82 level. So that held, pushing back up to that resistance around 95.40. And then my actual level here, 95.61, we'll see if it can get above that. If this breaks higher, that's going to tell me that markets are going to be headed higher. And then we'll get into those super extended levels like we talked about on the 200-day breadth. But right now, this still looks clean. Volume coming through, TLT starting to break higher, strong push. We talked about this higher low setup, looking for this to push at least to 96.50. It's broken back above all the EMAs and SMAs, so this looks quite good. It is down a little bit after hours, but nothing crazy. Still expecting it to hold this structure and then start to push to that next level. And if it gets above that, 100 is definitely within range. Moving over to volatility, as you would expect, volatility cratered on both of these. Bond market vol continues to fall super aggressive. And then you can see the VIX continues to drop. We're right back at the critical support, 1275. Thought we might be seeing a little bit of structure here on those couple of bullish days in a row, but then we sold off strong here today. Momentum bearish, RSI still bearish. So seems like markets are headed a little bit higher, and this might even break down further back into that 1240 area. Moving over to my accounts, I made money here today, so you like to see it. Couple $100 on the day. In terms of positions, I did end up rolling out and up on the IWM. It did look very strong, so I actually rolled to the Monday. So really that's only 2 days of trading from here. That's a little bit further than I like to be out. I think we might see a little bit of a dip tomorrow, but I did want to roll up pretty strong. Everything looks strong and I wanted to take advantage of that. So right now my max profit is $209. You can see I have a $2 credit there, and I had to pay a little bit to do that, which was a bummer. But again, markets look strong. You have to take advantage of it when it's happening. And then Qs, I did roll down into the weakness, which ended up being okay. It wasn't super great, and you can see we're actually down a little bit after hours, which is a bit annoying. I did roll to the 444.78 level on both of these, again for about $1.30, $1.50. So we'll see how that plays out. Trying to collect about the same, about $450 on that position, and then I'm in the money here, so not too much more that I can make on this IWM position. Just waiting to see a dip or not, and then I'll push to at the money if we continue to see bullishness tomorrow. Overall, all bullish positions. Markets still look okay. Qs are in consolidation, so still holding at the monies. IWM, a little bit more aggressive there. Let me know down in the comments section what you think of Donald Trump media or Truth Social, or the frothiness that we're seeing in markets right now, whether it's Truth Social or the Reddit IPO. Is that an indicator of weakness to come, or just that we're in a bubble and probably headed higher? Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of today's video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.